Right, hello there. My name's Chris, and this is hopefully the first in a series of YouTube videos that I'm going to be doing on the subject of motorcycling, motorbikes, whatever you like. Something I've been doing for 40 years or so, and that has given me immense pleasure. And I'm sure if you're watching this, you know exactly what I mean. Now, there's going to be a comment section below this, I imagine, so that's going to be free for anyone to use. But I would nicely ask that you stick your comments purely to the subject of motorcycles. Okay, so no politics, no religion, nothing else. I say, we're all here for one reason. Let's just enjoy that. Like I say, this is the first. I'm hoping it'll be the start of a series, but it won't all be like this. It won't be just me sitting down talking to camera. I intend to do ride-out videos, how-to videos, sometimes discussions like this, gear, things like that. So generally, anything to do with motorcycles is what I'm hoping to cover here, as and when it comes up. This is my first attempt, so please be gentle with me. I'm hoping it'll get better. I'm doing it on really simple equipment. This is my mobile phone. I'd ask you to subscribe and leave me a like if you do like what I'm saying, and we'll just go from here and see what happens. So thanks again. I'm glad you're along for a ride. Let's see where it takes us. My first video is going to be on the subject this time of year of winter riding. Now, at this point, I'm going to stress that if you decide to ride your bike in winter, and if you fall off, it is entirely your choice, okay? Because I'm making this video giving you hints, tips, do's and don'ts about the subject, doesn't mean I think doesn't mean I'm encouraging you to actively do it, okay? Hopefully you will try, because it is another bow to your string in the motorcycling arsenal, yeah? But please be aware that riding in any road conditions that aren't ideal do carry a heightened risk of falling off, okay? So by making this video, I'm not actively encouraging you to go out there and try it if you don't feel confident doing it. If it's something you'd like to try, and you're willing to accept any little crunches that come your way, then please watch on. The first thing I'm going to say about riding a bike in winter, bear in mind, my generation, I've been riding 40 years. We did it purely because bikes were our only means of transport, year in, year out. Not a bit different to now. We don't tend to tuck them away even now for winter. The first thing you need to consider is your clothing. If you're not comfortable on the bike in any situation, if your concentration isn't exactly where it should be, which is the road, then that's when things can start to go badly wrong. Being cold on the bike is exactly that kind of situation. So layer up and get warm. Remember, you're looking at multiple layers from a base layer through 3 or 4 layers, hopefully there's something warm on top of your jacket and stuff. Many years ago, when you had the motorcycle show, which is now Motorcycle Live, same location, Birmingham NEC, 1985, and I decided to go up there. Now, I'm in Whitstable in Kent. I believe that's a 260 mile trip up there, maybe a bit more, and the same back. So 500 plus mile round trip. It was November, but a nice morning, so being a complete donkey, all I wore was a t-shirt, leather jacket, jeans, and, believe it or not, trainers. Honda 554. Now, although they're very well thought of in the classic world these days, they're not perfect bikes. In fact, what happened next put me off Hondas pretty much the rest of my life. It did have a tendency to run from a 554 to a 275 twin, even down as low as a 130 odd cc single, depending on how wet it got. So anyway, that's going to come into it later on. Went to the show, wombled round all day, came out at 5 o'clock, already getting dark. And it was raining, and the temperature had dropped to well below 10 degrees. Okay, I thought it's going to be unpleasant, but not an issue. Within a mile of leaving the NEC, 260 odd miles to go, 275 twin. Speed down to about 60 or 70 miles an hour. which originally is the legal limit, but in those days, especially when the roads were clear, we tended to sort of get a jolly on and try and move. Anyway, carried on, about 130 miles to go, about halfway through, 130cc single, and we're down to 45 miles an hour, 50 maybe. I got home at 2 o'clock in the morning with very, very wet jeans, trainers, jacket and t-shirt in what was probably the early stages of hypothermia. I literally had to fall off the bike to get off it. Don't do that. Wear the white clothes. Your bike. We frequently used to have a winter hack. We used to have a nice bike for summer. I rode a GS750 after a Honda for about 12, 13 years. And although I would ride that in winter, what we tended to do was have something cheap, low powered, and we used to ride in the winter in the really foul weather. Trust me, you don't need 150 brake horsepower. You don't even need 50 brake horsepower when there's snow on the ground. It's 26, 27 brake horsepower, even less will do that, particularly if it's got a nice flat torque curve. And not only that, if it's cheap, and it does go over, which is a good chance you are going to fall off, please bear that in mind, it'll be easily bench straight. Right. So nice cheap winter hack. If you're going to use your ZX10 with 300 brake horsepower and it's snowing, please don't blame me. That is entirely your choice and it's not going to be cheap to fix. Right. First obstacles in winter. Rain. Now rain is rain. No matter what time of year, it's just water. Now I know a lot of you avoid it. And I must admit it's no fun getting soaked. But as long as you take your time, don't do anything sudden, you're going to be fine. Your tyres, if they're in good condition, as they should be, are going to have no trouble finding tarmac 9 times out of 10. And you'd be surprised just how much grip they still have in the rain. All the advice that follows from rain through to snow all carries one important part you have to consider. As soon as you go out in it, no sudden movements. So, no sudden braking, no sudden accelerating, no sudden changes of steering, okay? If you do any of that, you're increasing your risk of coming off because you're going to lose what traction you've got a darn sight quicker. Right, so rain, like I say, not a great problem. Make sure your waterproofs work. We now move on to a thing that really scares people. Your ice, frost and snow. Sheet ice is absolutely lethal under any conditions. Okay, it can be ridden, but it's probably the one example I'd say really don't. It's going to be virtually impossible to finish a journey without falling flat on your backside and damaging yourself or your bike. Now, all of these falls I'm talking about are going to be, as long as you're being sensible, fairly slow speed, because you do not want to pick your speed up in these weather conditions. So you should be keeping the slower speed anyway, but it's still no fun to go over. Sheet ice, try to avoid. Freshly laid snow and frost aren't too bad, as long as you slow everything right down. You won't be giving yourself 3 or 4 times more time to actually do stuff, and 3 or 4 times more of a gap to do it in. Keep away from your front brake as much as humanly possible, okay? You all know what happens if a front wheel locks up. It ain't fun and it ain't clever, and it's highly likely in slippery conditions that it's going to happen. Snow, when it's fallen, it's a bit of a surprise to most of you as well, it's actually surprisingly tractable. I've ridden in snow plenty of times. And as long as it's, not packed down, anything like that, it's fine. As long as you, again, slow everything down, keep away from a front brake. There's a tendency among people who aren't experienced to head for the tracks where the cars have been driving, thinking that somewhere it's going to be safer. It's actually quite the opposite. The fresh powdered snow is where you're going to get most traction. Where the cars have been, Those tracks are more likely than not the pack ice and sheet ice that I mentioned earlier. So avoid. Right, yeah, just a few simple tips. Hopefully I give you a guidance to what to do. Now again, I'm not advocating or like geeing you up to go out there and ride because you have to, okay? These are hints and tips if you feel you want to try it and you feel you're experienced enough. Yeah? I'll still do it, so what the hell. If I can do it, look at me, anyone can. Thanks for your time, and before we go, this is the first video in hopefully a series covering all kinds of motorcycle topics. Could be anything from how to rides, to issues. Hopefully the next two videos, I'm not sure when they'll be, will be covering my two main bikes, quick walk rounds of each, so you know what I'm riding. And one's a Kawasaki ZR600, about 100 brake horsepower at the crank, and the other is a Royal Enfield 500 Bullet, pre-unit about 26 brake horsepower, so a little bit different. Right, hopefully you've enjoyed this, hopefully it's given you a few tips. I'd ask you nicely if you could subscribe, leave me a comment, motorbike based, maybe stuff you'd like to see in the future, who knows. Thanks for your time, and hopefully see you soon. Take care, bye.